Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Daybreak Africa, reaching you from our studio here in Ondo City. Now, patron-client politics has remained dominant in Nigeria's nascent democracy since 1999, with political elites close to state power and resources accused of using same for their personal interest as well as political dominance. To further this discourse this morning, we shall be taking a look at the topic patronage or political patronage effect on governance in Nigeria. We have a guest who is already here looking all dapper. He is Alphonsus Uchenna, who is a political analyst. It's so nice to have you on our set this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me with you.
Yeah, so I'm going to leave Ezekiel to start with the discourse this morning.
When running for an office, like I said, it's normal to have sponsors, donors, and I know that. And it's only normal, so many believe it's actually tends to benefit when this so-called leader tends to emerge. So what's your take as to this kind of system of in our government, government generally around the world too?
Thank you very much, Mr. Ezekiel. Looking at what you bring forth this morning, I will tell you the system which is in practice in Nigeria is a very, very porous one. It's a very serious one. It's very irritating. And I've already said political patronage is a spoiled system in our economy. Why I will say is a very porous word is this. Of course, what we are practicing is democracy. And they said democracy is the government of what? Government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Then looking at this political patronage, to a very large extent, it negates the principle of democracy. Which means this system expand out democracy to be government of the few, for the few, and by the few.
Now, during President Buhari's tenure, people tend to accuse him of this political patronage. Now, but don't you think probably he tends to try to work with people he knew? People may say he tends to choose people predominantly from the north, but it's more like these are people actually understood and knew. Talking about administrations, talking about these present administrations, the president tends to actually hold their people like Bajabia, Mila, amongst other. Those are people you could actually vouch for, people you could actually go for anytime, and in order to get the job done. So instead of accusing our government for, being practicing this spoils system, don't you think they are rather, trying to work with people, the people they are sure and certain would actually deliver to the people?
Of course, yes. A situation like this, like you said, the ideal is always that you have to work with people you know, people you trust. But what is applicable as far as our country is concerned? You work with people you know, but the question is, are they resource persons? And the answer is, they are not.
They are not.
These are people who have actually contributed much well in their political aspiration. Just like Bajabia Mila, you said. Of course, he's a brilliant personnel. But I put it to you, we have people out there who are very good, who are better off than Bajabia Mila. And it's because of what? The appointment these days from the political patronage we're talking about is all about, what did you bring to the table? What did you bring to support my ambition? And people obviously support ambition because of what they will benefit. And I tell you, it's also one of the factors that has crippled our economy. It has caused a lot of setback when it comes to developmental strides as far as Nigeria is concerned.
Now, political patronage has been said to be the manipulation of government policies. I want to counter the belief by certain people whom Ezekiel tend to be voicing today by saying that, he who pays the piper takes the tune, and so once the piper is paid, once the tune begins to play, the players should get up and dance according to the tune, forgetting that some tunes will be too fast or too slow for certain people. Now, if political patronage is a manipulation of government policies just to satisfy a few elites to the detriment of the general population, do you see a system as this being practiced, being productive to any government or to any democracy, be it in Nigeria or otherwise?
The system of political patronage, like we have been mentioning, and looking into different political structures, looking at various tiers of government, I don't think, it's not that I don't think, there is no benefit. Because one of the priority objectives of governance is what? Is people's satisfaction. The entire populace, what would they benefit from the governance? And I'm going to take my time to give various analyses, not just only in the political system, in other political sector or even other private parastatals. It's something that is really existing. Now, an aspirant who is actually vying for a post, if you look at all their campaign promises, it is centered on what? On the people's benefit. It is centered on the people's benefit. Then one thing is this: for you to actually put in place or meet up your objective for vying for the post, which was initially spelled out, because it is what they spelled out. What they spelled out is quite different from what they put into practice, and they are very much aware about that. They are very, very much aware about that. At the end of the day, what they would say will not come to pass, whether deliberately or not deliberately. Those who have the good minds to actually fulfill their campaign promises, there will be setback. Why? Because of political patronage, whereby we have big cabals, influencers in the political party decide for the leader-elect, decide or choose for him ministers, commissioners. And what are we saying? Definitely people that will be chosen, they are not experts in that field. Yes.
All because of patronage.
All because of patronage. That is where you end up seeing an herbalist being appointed as the Minister of Health. I'm just citing an example. We don't have an herbalist who is a Minister for Health. I'm just citing an example. But I'm actually saying that this is where we end it up at the end of the day. And that is one of the reasons why you have seen different set of people recycling different administration. And that is why you always see that even the serious-minded politician or aspirant, who probably by the virtue of their attitude, or probably by the virtue of their experiences, or their past administration in various states, will hardly get there. I don't want to mention name. I know you briefly understand what I'm trying to talk about. Narrowing it down to infrastructures. I don't know if you are very much aware that the porous infrastructural system we have is also as a result of political patronage, whereby you give contracts to somebody who knows nothing about projects, but all because he was able to raise up your tentacles in a particular constituency, or you won a particular sector, or you won where he stays, and because of that you have to compensate him or her with projects. And when that happens, at the end of the day, the person will not even finish the project, or will not even do something that is very sensible. You cannot question him or her. You cannot hold him or her responsible. Because what? He's a member of your cabal. You are only just trying to say a very big thank you to him, or do a kind of a benefit in kind for what he has done for you towards achieving your aspiration to become a leader. So that is what is actually in vogue. That is why me as a person, I say totally no to political patronage. We should really shy away from that. It's not going to help us.
Now, patronage also affects the tenets of democracy, such as transparency, accountability, equality, rule of law, fair competition, effectiveness, to mention a few. I would really want our viewers to uh, understand the effect of patronage in terms of accountability. Accountability is the responsibility that the electorates desire from the elected.
Yeah, sure.
Giving account for their actions and decisions taken. Now, in our history, we've also had issues with accountability in governance. It becomes a big problem when the electorate want to find out from the elected what they do, what they give, how they spend certain amount of monies that was put on paper but not seen physically. So, how do you think, in your opinion, political patronage affects accountability? Before we talk about equality, as it were.
It really affects accountability and transparency. And I would love to start examples. We have experiences whereby immediate past governor is having a serious issue with the incumbent governor. All because of what? Political patronage. For instance, I'm a governor, I just leave office, I strongly determine who succeeds me. And I think this is a replicant of a case that is most peculiar to Rivers State. I have to put somebody to succeed me. And I want that person to be answerable to me. Because what? I contributed to his success. Political patronage is in place. And when the person gets there, what happened? I choose to the person how he or she spends the public money. From the budget, from the allocation, send 5% or 10% to me, this and that. And when that happens, and that person wants to be loyal to his boss. And when that happens, what is remaining for the people? Absolutely no, it's going to remain for them. And these are the side effects of political patronage when it comes to accountability and transparency. I say to myself at times, most of these leaders, newly elected leaders, it's not really as if they don't have good things to do for the public. But because there are faults in the process of them attaining that office. Because they are not really viable, the confidence is not really there, because they think, oh, if not for this person, if not for my boss, if not for my particular chieftains, I won't be there. If I don't be surprised that even before they assume office, they are written agreements. This is what you do for us. This is what you do for us. At the end of the day, what happens to accountability is zero. Transparency is not there. What we end up seeing, a certain amount of money was allocated for this project, you will not even see the project seeing the light of the day. But the money involved has been used to settle what? The cabals. So it's really a serious problem. And this is actually happening in most of the states, not just Rivers State alone.
It's more like you tend to tag political patronage the roots of all corruption.
Of course, seriously.
In Nigeria.
Seriously.
But you tend to forget,
in fact,
politics.
Move on.
You tend to forget politics itself is more like a game of interest. And as saying you want to probably, I should use the word, eradicate political patronage as you feel it's so evil, then you will start talking about, trying to do away with things as sponsorship, donors, staunch supporters. And why running or vying for political, office, you can't really do away with sponsors. You can't really do away with, no matter how rich you think you are. I mean, these are more like key figures in your campaign. Don't you think it's more like you're just saying just too much?
I am here this morning sounding like a sane person. I'm sounding by the virtue of the fact that the way things should be, normality, even comparing other countries with our country, we have other developed country. I don't really think political patronage is the order of the day over there. Let's put it on the table now. What is really the essence of governance? It's for people's satisfaction. It's for developmental stride. If I don't be surprised, among all other factors, the good number of the problem, challenges we are facing in the country, the problem of underdevelopment we are facing in the country is replicate to political patronage. Not just the basic, that's just the facts.
Just how
If
bad,
we talk about
how bad
eradication,
is this
if you have to talk
situation?
about eradication, I will subscribe to that. I'm going to cite a few, will I say examples, or let me just examples now. Now, are you aware that to aspire for a particular office, by the virtue of our constitution, when you are 18, you have the right to vote and to be voted for? Now the question is, does it mean we don't have people of young youth who are extremely very, very brilliant, who are God-fearing, all the values that is expected of one, they have them. And they would like to what? They would like to aspire for any of this. But because of political patronage, makes nomination form extremely expensive for people to dwell into it. And that is one of the reasons why the good heads are actually shying away from politics. Now the cabals, which you call as sponsors, or because they also want to link their fingers from public funds, will never look at reasonable people to choose. Oh, come and vie for this. They actually want to look for somebody that will be answerable to them for their own selfish interest, the minority, at the detriment of what? The majority, at the detriment of the entire populace. So that is why I'm saying it's something that should be eradicated. I don't see there's any advantage in that. There's no advantage at all.
Now, for example, fair competition and equity provides a level playing field for all Nigerians
of course, yes.
to participate in governance, be you from the north, from the south, from the east or the west, to have equal say, equal opportunity in decision making, equal opportunity in terms of governance, as it were. Do you see patronage giving that opportunity to Nigerians? That's one. Has it given opportunity? Because again, like what Ezekiel is trying to say, you cannot separate patronage from politics, as it were, and it seems not to, I don't think it sees anything wrong, or I don't know, I don't understand where he's going with his argument. So do you think we have benefited, we've had that level playing field for everyone in all parts and sphere of the country to actually take part and say, hit their chest and say, look, I've been fully represented and I have a voice at, in the middle of activities?
The answer is no. It has never happened. It has never happened, and I beat my chest. If we still continue on this, it will never happen. It will never happen. And if there are situations whereby we have a leader who is God-fearing, who actually want to see how to shy away from godfatherism. Godfatherism is actually synonymous to political patronage. Who actually want to shy away from godfatherism, who actually has a love of the entire people at heart, who has an image to protect. You see how difficult it will be. Let me start a very good example of what has happened in the past in Anambra State. You know what happened to Peter Obi? I know they served him several impeachments. All because of what? He was actually trying to shy away from godfatherism. He was actually trying to exclude himself from political patronage, bringing the benefit of the people at the peak. And you see what happened. Political patronage as well has also made the people not to have any say in governance. You all can see. And that's why you see them, they do what they like without the fear of the people. Even the only strong part, the only instrument the people have, he is not reckoned with. He's not reckoned with. Look at what happened in SARS. It's a suitable example. When the young people in Nigeria actually want to take their stand, and let's do this, the right thing, and look at what happened at the end of the day. Political patronage, the cabals, the big wins in Nigeria, also use these young people against us as well. And what happens today? All the struggles went down. So just like you actually asked me, it has not really helped out.
So, in your opinion, why do you think political elites, actually indulge in behaviors that are detrimental to democracy and governance, as well as the rule of law? Why do you think a Nigerian would not think about his fellow man? Why do you think the elected will undermine the electorate when they get to office? This is something that has become a part of us. We see it every day. I speak as a Nigerian, but my opinion is on the low as I ask you these questions. Why do you think that the political elites appear not to have the interest of the people, and this affects democratic rule, as it were, on the long run? Why this attitude? Where do you think it started from? Where does it stem from?
You see, the political elites who actually give a nod to political patronage is because this set of people are people who are not patriotic. They are selfish. They don't have a love of the people at heart. And that is basically what is happening. And that is why we have a good number of them out there in our political structure. And these are people who has actually crumbled the economy. I do tell people that an ideal economy, the distance between the rich, the gap between the rich and the poor should not be much. And that is what is happening. Even when the masses are grumbling, you see them laughing. Because what? They're actually feeding on what? On public fund. They are investing on public fund. So basically, it's just, I think, the thing of the attitude. They don't have the value. Selflessness is a very good value. This sort of people are not selfless. They are not selfless people. But they have high risk to selfish interest. And that is what is happening today. I might say is this: for us to have an equal level playing ground in politics, of course, yes, and let's I forget, as far as Nigeria is concerned, in every country we have the highest political parties. And that is one of the reasons why we are having this. So to solve all these things, or to eradicate all these things, if I will say, although I know it's going to be very difficult for its execution or implementation, nomination form should be reduced to the barest minimum. Then you will see that these people with high wings in governance will go pipe low. Because already with the look of things, the same public, the people we're talking about, can actually see the secrets behind governance. Good number of them are actually seeing what have really known their rights. They have been sensitized in recent years. And that is why you see different types of like say prayer group who are actually saying to stand against government policies. Though most times they come, what happens was what this political elite we talk about will call their leaders and do what? Shut them up. And that is why I have a kind of fear of its implementation and execution in our political system. But it's something that should be done.
Now, in the late 19th century down to early 20th century in the U.S. Now, the U.S. court upheld First Amendment limitations on political patronage. Now, the court prohibited a newly elected Democratic sheriff from firing non-civil service Republican employees. Now, do you think our court in Nigeria could actually follow suit and actually try to limit this spoils system?
The answer is no.
Wow. It was very definite.
On a more serious note, I'm very, very definite about that. And this is one of the things. And this is one of the things that is, like I said, it's very, very irritating. Look at the labor market. Why is it that we have the rate of unemployment every day is always growing at geometric progression? Why? Why is it that we have highly talented people, highly talented Nigerians with high skills. Why is it that we see them on the queue in the labor market?
I think the question is, why do you think the courts are incapable or have no ability to actually enact things as these in order to limit political patronage? What makes you think they're so incapable?
Before you even answer that question, I was going to ask how political patronage affects the rule of law. I didn't even know you were going to ask that same question. That was the last question I have on my plate. How does political patronage affect the rule of law? Because if you're asking why are laws not enacted to tackle this situation, of course, we have our history. It is important for us to let the people know how this has affected or is affecting the rule of law.
Thank you very much for that wonderful. Thank you very much for that wonderful question. I was about even mentioning this.
Yes.
I remember those days when we were in school, when we practiced unionism. In fact, it's the structures there in school those days. It's very, very good, and that is the way it should be. In the sense that we used to have the executive arm, which is what we call the Central Executive Council. We have the SRC, which is more or less the Legislative Council. Back then in school, we are not always in good time. And that is normal. And that's why I tell people that the system of governance we practice in Nigeria is very good. It's a very good system of government. We have the executive, whereby we have the legislative, and that's why we have the judiciary. Each of these sectors have their what and have their rights, have their roles to play at the benefit of the masses. And who happens to be the frontiers of the people? The legislative. What is happening is the other way around, and that is why the voice of the people cannot be heard anymore because of political patronage. And that's why we said it's a spoiled system. Spoil in the sense that what? The cabals we are talking about, the sponsors we are talking about, they also what? They also have a say in what? Even in the legislative. And that is why we have the executive do something wrong, then the legislative have nothing to say. Look at what is happening to the judiciary as well. In fact, that is the worst sector now. On a more serious note, the judiciary. And that's where the rule of law comes up. And you see what is happening a few years ago, whereby we expected the judiciary to come out and say the truth. Why? They are being sponsored by what? The same cabals. The executive determines who is going to be there. And because the person has been a kind of, is privileged to be there, what happens? It's answerable to them. And that is why the rule of law is epileptic as far as I'm concerned in Nigeria.
On the long run, taking a look at the future of politics in Nigeria, how do you see this order play out and affect governance and the lives of Nigerians and, of course, democracy?
Are you saying with the existence of this political patronage as well?
Exactly. If it continues in our politics, how do you see it play out in our democracy and, of course, the lives of Nigerians in the future?
In fact, it will have a very lot of adverse in the life of the people. On the economy, it will cripple the economy. When it comes to infrastructure, developmental strides will go on a low. It's going to be very, very, very hazardous for us. And that is why we should be lamenting. Whatsoever we want to do, if you are calling for revolution, any way we want to do, I thought I would just find our way out of this menace. It will go a long way to help us. And if not, and that's why I said in the first place, if possible, if this could be enacted in the electoral law, that money spent, you even see, I remember there was a particular year, I rendered a service for this non-governmental organization, JDPMC, when we came to monitor elections in Nigeria, not just to monitor the process, we even monitor the finance. We discovered Even in the constitution, there is restriction, there is limitation to the amount that should be spent on electoral campaigns. But you know, these days it becomes very expensive. Look at it, just imagine if I'm interested to go and back to my state and run for the governor of my state. Do you think I have the money to pick up a nomination form?
Yes, that's why you need sponsors and donors.
I don't need sponsors. Because if I need sponsors, if I need sponsors, I will not do the will of the people. Because I need to be answerable to them.
But you just said you have no funds and you really need to go to communities, local governments and all that. How do you intend doing that?
That is why I have to sit down then. And forget about that.
So it's more
that
like
is just it.
It's more like for you have to be wealthy enough to go into politics. If
that is
you're
just
not
that is,
enough, you see
that is even one of the reasons why we have brilliant people, good people, people of goodwill shying away from politics.
And since I have no
because
money, you expect them to sit at home and do nothing.
Of course, yes.
Wow.
But let's try something today. Let us reduce the involvement of money to the barest minimal. You see what will happen. Obviously, you will see what will happen. You see a lot of people coming to vie for it. Then I don't need a sponsor. I don't need to be answerable to people. And that is why most times I see some of our leaders who are very wealthy, political leaders who are very wealthy. Mere looking at them, you see a kind of, if not 50%, you actually fetch them out. They are virtuous people. Because they will come out to say, oh, I have my money. I don't need people to sponsor. And that reminds me, that comes from this political words out there. You don't have structure, you cannot win election. The structure is not the real structure that has to do with the people. It has to do with agents, sponsors that will work for you in different constituency. If it has to do with sharing money, it has to do with looking for any ways to actually canvass people for your sake, it involves this. And that is why you see people who are not rich hardly win election, except if they have sponsor, and except if they are ready to do the will of these said people at the detriment.
Like I said, in the late 19th century to the 20th century, the U.S. had widespread government corruption due to patronage. Now, but a slowing rate of migration and rise of middle-class American contributed to the gradual demise of the spoils system. Now, when it comes to us, you don't believe in our judicial system, you don't believe in sponsors, you don't believe in donors, you don't believe in external funds. How do you think, as Nigerians, we tend to limit patronage? For the U.S., it's more like they had to just limit immigration, people that actually come into the country, and then have a way of increasing the middle class. What do you think would work for Nigeria, considering our peculiar and unique nature as a country?
I just said it from my own. From
you sounded more like you wanted a revolution, but at some point it's not what you wanted. So I'm not really certain what you wanted.
If there's going to be revolution, yes, it's going to go a long way to help us. Bearing in mind, there will be a serious amendment in the electoral law, especially in the aspect of monetary involvement.
Is it just funds for you?
That's the problem. That is the basis of the problem we're having. It's not as if Nigerians are bad. Like I told you in the first place, we have good ones. We have people of good wills. But because they are sponsored, this cabal actually sponsored them. These are people that ordinarily, they have goodwill, they have good virtue. And this cabal see that this person has the potential to win election for us. If we present this person, the people, oh, it's okay with this person because of their past records, because of who they are. And that is why all of us will troop out to go and vote for the person. At the end of the day, we'll see that the person is doing otherwise. Why? Because the person has to act according to what the sponsors are saying. And when you do otherwise, you start having problem. Are you not surprised that you just see? And that is what, just a question you asked about rule of law. Can you not see that these people are not even in governance? These external forces, they are not even in governance. You even see them influencing judiciary, influencing the legislative arm of government, threatening the executive arms, threatening them with impeachment, all because that person has failed to give back or to say thank you in kind to what they have done for him to get to the post. That is what is really happening. That is why I'm saying no to political patronage. That's why I'm saying no to sponsors.
Now,
But that's just the basics on a more serious note.
yes. But like Ezekiel, you've used the United States as a yardstick for our discourse like 3 times. I also know that in the United States, during elections, when individuals donate towards a particular candidate,
Which is normal.
the monies are declared.
Yeah.
The monies are declared. If you have an ambition of becoming the president of the United States, people rally around you because they know you don't have
Of course, yes.
the amount of monies for election. But what happens is that whatever monies is given towards that cause is declared. And at the end of the election, whether they win or don't win, they actually go through the list and it is published and made public. Has that ever happened in Nigeria?
It has never happened.
So that's the patronage we're talking about.
It has never happened in Nigeria. It has never happened. Obviously, we have people who have been sponsored. It has never happened. Except the case, I'm not really too clear with it, except the case of Peter Obi. And probably, maybe it came up because there was an internal rancor in the party. That's why we saw a statement about those who donated and the amount they donated. But if it is true or not, we do not know about that. And that is why I'm not going to dwell much on that. But as far as Nigeria is concerned, it never happens.
So unless we get to a point in our lives, in our politics, where every fund that is given towards that cause or during election is declared from the source it was given from,
Of course, yes.
and the source from which that money was made, that
Yes.
was given, we just will go on in this vicious cycle of mercenaries sneaking in as political elites, sponsorship or godfatherism, who will bring all the millions and billions to put candidates there that will become pawns that they control to the detriment of Nigerians.
Of course, on a more serious note.
On a serious
On a more
note.
serious note. And I will also add to it because I have one experience lately when somebody approached my office. In fact, a student of mine in the past approached my office. He was trying to apply for, is it Navy or I think it's Nigerian Police Force. He was trying to apply for the Nigerian Police Force. And he told me he actually came looking for referees. Yeah, looking for referees. He met me in the office. He actually came to me as a referee. I smiled. I said, you want to use me as a referee? How many people know me? Nobody's happy me. Then instantly, because I know what is practicing in Nigeria, I said, please, if you are very close, I'll say it live. I said, if you are very close to the honorables as far as this state is concerned, it's better you go and meet them as referee. For instance, if I'm applying for any of these positions in Nigeria and I have people like good-minded people like Honorable Makinde who happens to be my referee, do you think those people will shy away from that? They will not.
They will not.
Then the problem is now, what happens to us that do not know anybody?
That's a big question. I wish we could go on and on discussing this topic, but just as we round up this morning, there's something we often do with our guests. We ask them to give us your last word on the topic. Just your last word in a few seconds.
Yes, from my own end actually, like I've been agitating, and I'll keep agitating till death. Now, political patronage is a no. Is a no to political stride as far as Nigeria is concerned. Then what can we do? If we can have an angel sent to us to influence every forces and made a serious amendment as far as electoral law is concerned, in what? In conjunction, especially particularly with the finances involved, like I said, reducing the fees to the barest minimum that will give people, young ones, opportunity to contest. It will have a very long way to. They will go a very long way to shut down the system of political godfatherism.
All right. Thank you very much, Alphonsus.
Thank you.
Now, patronage also undermines the tenets of democracy, such as transparency, accountability, equality, equity, rule of law, fair competition, effectiveness, to mention a few. Our guest has said it all. What do I have to add to that? We pray for a Nigeria that works, a Nigeria that has and carries everyone along, a Nigeria of equality.
Indeed, an Nigeria of equality. Like you said, political patronage is a no-no, if at all we intend moving forward as a country and as a people. You do have a wonderful day ahead. I remain Ezekiel Ogar.
I am Anire Binitie. Take care of yourself. Bye for now.